So today we're going to talk about box and whisker plot. So let's see if we can launch this lesson and begin. So we are going to do a secondary warm-up where we just talk about some concepts that we've learned earlier. So let's see if we can do that. So we've got mean, median, mode, and range. They're going to be very instrumental in our lesson today talking about box and whisker plots. So let's review real fast. What is mean besides your math teacher? Yes, ma'am. It is the average. Excellent. How do we find that mean? How do we find it? Yes, ma'am. Very good. So we would take this data set here. We would add all the numbers up, and we would divide by how many how many numbers that we have. What about the median? Median is? Yes, sir?
The middle number.
Very good. The middle number after we've done what? Very good. After we put them in order from either least to greatest or greatest to least. Now, what if we had an odd set of data? In other words, I've got 9 data points in my data. Is the median part of the data? Yes, it would be. So there would be a number right in the middle. Matter of fact, it's the 5th number where there's 4 numbers to the left and 4 numbers to the right, to divide that data up. What if we had 10 data points? Then is the median going to be part of the data? No, it's not. We take the 5th number and the 6th number, and what would we have to do with those? Excellent. We add those together, divide it by 2, and then we have the median. Excellent. And what about the mode? What is our mode? Yes, ma'am. Very good. The one that occurs the most often. Now, can you have more than one mode? Yes. If you have 2 modes, we call that data what? Okay, we call it bimodal data. Okay. Can we have 3 modes? Yes, we can. We can have 3. Can we have 4?
No.
Well, you can. We just don't care at that point. Okay, so we just don't care. Okay. Now, what about the range? What is our range? Very good. The big minus the small. And the median and the range are going to be very important in today's lesson, okay, when we talk about box and whisker plots. So let's go ahead and skip through these questions because I don't really care about them. So now, today what we're going to do is we're going to learn to display and analyze data using a box and whisker plot or in a box and whisker plot. Okay? There's 4 vocabulary words we need to focus on today. One is box and whisker plot itself, the lower quartile, the upper quartile, and the inner quartile range. Now, when we say the word quartile, what comes to mind? Quarters. Quarters. Matter of fact, quarters and quartiles are the same exact thing. Same exact thing. There's not anything different. So basically, we're taking a set of data and chopping it up into quarters. So let's see if we can do this. Please write this first sentence down for me. Says, a box and whisker plot uses a number line to show the distribution of a set of data. So please write that in your notes. Again, a box and whisker plot uses a number line to show the distribution of a set of data. Okay, so the first thing we need to learn after we know that is how do I make one? Well, here's an explanation of how we make it. To make a box and whisker plot, first divide the data into 4 equal parts using quartiles. The median, or the middle quartile, divides the data into a lower half and an upper half. The median of the lower half is the lower quartile, and the median of the upper half is the upper quartile. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Yeah, sounds really simple, doesn't it? Yeah, especially after listening to all that mumbo jumbo. Sounds really simple. Not really. Yeah, we lost you as soon as I said to make. Okay, and then it's out the window. Okay, so what we got to remember is to find the median of a data set with an even number of values, to find the mean of the 2 middle values. And we've already talked about that. If you have an even set, you have to find the middle of those. So let's see if we can actually create a box and whisker plot. So this first one we're going to do together. Then you're going to have one to do on your own. Okay? So here, take this data set. Please copy this data set down. But how do you think you should copy it down? In order. And probably the best would be least to greatest. Now some of you probably had a real hard time doing this because you're used to doing this with your data. Right? You're used to crossing them out as you write them down. Yeah, well, they did it up here, and then magically, mine pops in order. Yeah. The magic of technology, yes. Okay, so you should have come up with an order, or if you didn't, please make sure you have it down. 67, 67, 69, 73, 75, 75, 81, 85. Now, the first thing that you should notice about this data is how many data points do we have? We actually have 8 data points. It's an even set, so that means we're going to have to do what? Our median will not be part of the data set, so we got to actually find it. Very good. Okay, so what two numbers do you think the median will be between? 73 and 75, okay? And that's going to be one of the points that we're going to need. Matter of fact, to do a box and whisker plot, we need 5 data points. And I want us to write these 5 data points down. Okay, so out to the side of where you wrote the data, I want you to write these things. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to need is I need to know the low value. I need to know the low number. Okay, so please write low down out beside where you wrote the data. Okay, and then I want you to skip a line, skip a line, skip a line, and then write high. So you're going to write low, skip a line, skip a line, skip a line, high. Low, skip a line, skip a line, skip a line, high. Yeah, I need to remember that this is being recorded. Yes, I do. Got a nice rhythm with that, you know. Okay, now on that middle line, the middle one, we're going to put median because that's one of the things that I need to find. Okay, we need to find the median. Now you'll notice we've got 2 other blank lines there that we need to look at. Now, I told you we're going to divide this data up into quarters or quartiles. So right between low and median, we're going to write the thing where it says we're going to say Q1 because we're going to find the lower quartile. And Q1 just means lower quartile. Okay? And right between median and high, we're going to find an upper quartile or Q3. Now, the reason why I reference them as Q1 and Q3 is because you're going to see that on the calculator next week. Okay, because this is the first quartile and the third quartile. So what do you think the middle quartile would be? Q2, the median. That's your Q2, okay? Because it stands for quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, so on and so forth. Okay, so now we need to find all 5 of those data points. Which one do you think we will start with? The low. Which one's the low number? 67. So we write 67 over here. The next one, which is easy to find, is the high. What's our high value? 85. Okay, now we go to our median. Okay, we find our median. So we know it's going to be between 73 and 75. And what number is between 73 and 75? 74. Very good. So our median is 74. Now, in order to find Q1 and Q3, what we have to do is take this median where it was, and it divides our data up into 2 equal parts. Okay? So we've got a lower half of data and an upper half of data. Now, if it's an even set of data like this, the 74 splits it, and I have to use all the data points. But if this were an odd set of data, that number, it would be part of it, so we would not include that in the lower half or the upper half. Okay? So, because this wasn't part of it, we use all the numbers. Now what I need to do to find Q1 is find the median of this lower half of data, this lower 50%. So again, we've got 4 numbers here. There's 4 numbers, so I need to find the median of the 2 in the middle. Okay, so 67 and 69, what's our median going to be? 68. That's going to be Q1, or the lower quartile. So then I do the same thing to the upper half of data. And again, there's 4 data points. So I find the 2 that are in the middle. Now this one's a little tougher. Okay, now the way they say do this is add them up and divide by 2. But I'm lazy. I don't like doing that. So here's how I do it. And it works every single time. I find the difference between these 2 numbers. What's the difference between 81 and 75? 6, right? There's 6 numbers between them. What's half of 6? 3. So I take that difference, cut it in half, and add it to the bottom number. 75 plus 3 is 78. There's our Q3. That makes sense. You see how that works? Just take the difference of the 2 numbers, split the difference in half, and add it to the bottom number or subtract it from the top number. Yes, ma'am? What happens what? If it's odd, then you end up knowing that you're going to have like a 0.5. Like it could be 78.5. And that would be okay as well. Okay? Any questions on those? That was a good question. So now what we need to do, now that we have our 5 data points, we're now ready to put it on a number line. Okay, because that's what a box and whisker plot is. So draw me a number line. And now we need to put some numbers on it, because if I don't put any numbers on my number line, it's just a arrow. Yeah, going in both directions. Okay, now I like to pick numbers that will extend past both ends of my data, okay, and make it easy for me to count. So my low number was 67. So what would be a nice number that's a little lower than 67 that would be easy to count with? Probably 65. Very good. So I'm going to put right here at the end 65. And then I know I've got to go to at least 85, but again, I like to extend out past that. So what number could I use that would be easy to count with out past 85? Probably 90. And then that would mean that I'm going to count by 5s. I'm going to count by 5s, make it real easy. So now that we have this out, I need you to somehow equal increments go from 65 to 90. Okay, so you got to put 70, 75, 80, 85. They aren't too bad. Started off good and ended up a little fat. Oh well. Now, here we go. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to take these 5 data points and place them on our number line. But we're not going to do it right on the number line. We do it up above the number line. Okay, so we're going to look at 67. And we're going to find on our number line about where 67 would be. And we're going to place a little line. Okay, just like I did here. Okay, and then I'm going to go to 68 and I'm going to place another line. Not very far apart. And then I'm going to go to 74, place another line. And again, we're just doing a rough estimate. And then I'm going to go to 78 and put another line. Then I'm going to go to 85 and put another line. And you should have 5 little lines on there. Do you have 5 little lines? 5 little lines. Now that doesn't look like much of a box and whisker plot, does it? No, so now what we need to do is get the box and the whisker taken care of. So we're going to take the lines in the middle, the 3 lines that are in the middle. Start at the low one here, which is the Q1, and we're going to connect the tops of these lines, just like that. And then we're going to go to the bottom of those lines and connect the bottom of those lines. And guess what that is? That's our box, which we call our inner quartile range. Okay, the box is the inner quartile range. It's the middle 50% of our data. And now the last thing that we got to do is we got to make some whiskers. So from each end of the box, we're going to connect it to the low and the high. And there's our box and whisker plot. Simple as that. That's all there is to creating a box and whisker plot. So all we need to do this is we need 5 data points out of our data. We need a low. We need a Q1, which is the median of your lower half of data. We need the median. We need the Q3, which is the median of your upper half of data. And then we need our high. And once you have those 5 data points, you can easily just put them on your number line. Does that make sense? Pretty easy, isn't it? Okay. Now, let's see what they did. See if they did the same thing that we did. Okay. First thing they had to find once they put the data in order, they had to find their low value, 67. Had to find the high value of 85. Then they had to find the median. So they took the data, found the 2 in the middle, added them up and divided by 2, came up with the same number we did, 74. Then they took that data and they had to find the lower quartile. So they found the 2 in the middle and the bottom, did the same thing, did the upper quartile the same way. And then last but not least, they drew their number line and placed their points on the number line. Now they used a scale of 2 as opposed to a scale of 5 like we did. So, and really it's 1s. Okay, and they put their dots on there. They drew their box, identified the median, drew out their whiskers, and they were done. Does that look like ours? Looks pretty close, doesn't it? Okay, other than the scale, it was perfect. Now what I'd like for you to do is do this one on your own. Okay? Here's 7 more data points. Now I'd like for you to create on your own a box and whisker plot. Remember, the first thing you have to do is put your data in order. Then you find the 5 data points that we're looking for. You find the low and the high. Then you find the median, which is your middle value. And since this is an odd set of data, it will be part of your data. But now once you have that middle point, that median, it will not be included in your lower or your upper half. It will not be included. Then you find your lower quartile, which is the median of your lower half of data. And then your upper quartile, which is the median of your upper half of data. Okay, let's see how well you did. All right, so here we go. Step number 1, put your data in order. Okay. Then we need to find our smallest value, 22. Then we find our greatest value, 42. Then we're going to find the median. Since it's an odd set of data, it is part of our data set. Our median is 31. Now, because 31 is part of our data set, we do not use it in our lower quartile or our upper quartile. Okay? So our lower quartile is just the 22, 24, and 27. The 31 is not included. Okay? The lower quartile then would be 24. The upper quartile then would be 38. And now we're ready to draw our number line, put our numbers on it. Again, they stepped by 2, even though each line is worth 1. And they put each of their points on there. Connected the middle 3 with a box. Drew the line for the median if it wasn't already drawn. And then extended from the box to the endpoints to make the whiskers. So your graph should have looked something like this. Did it? Excellent. Okay. So box and whisker plots are really simple. Now, the reason why we learn how to create them is because on the STAR test or any other test, we typically don't have you create stuff, but we do have you interpret. So let's see if we can actually answer some questions based on some double box and whisker plots, where they're putting 2 sets of data on there. So in this particular one, they're comparing basketball and baseball players. It says, which set of heights of players has a greater median? Now, which one of these lines is the median? Yeah, the one right in the very middle of it. Okay, so based on this, which one would be the greater median? Basketball is going to be the greater one for sure, because the median's here for basketball and the median's here for baseball. Okay, tells you that basketball, they're a lot taller than they are for baseball players. Just imagine for these tall people, what kind of a strike zone they have in baseball. You know, if you're 7'2", you have just a gigantic strike zone. Any pitcher should be able to hit that. Right? What about this one? Which players have a greater interquartile range? Again, interquartile range, what are we talking about? We're talking about how big is the box. How big is the box? So for basketball, we start here at 78. And we go to 68. So how big is that interquartile range? 10. Okay, this one right here, we're at 74. And it goes to 70 or 66. How big is that one? 8. So which one has the bigger interquartile range? Basketball, definitely. Now this last question's a little tricky. Okay, last question's a little tricky. It says, which group of players has more predictability in their height? Predictability means that you could be able to choose ahead of time how tall this person might be. Okay, now predictability, basically when you're talking about that, is if your data is really spread out, it's not really easy to predict how tall somebody is or predict what the data might be. But if your data is really tight together, really close together, then it's probably pretty easy to tell what something's going to be. Okay, it's easier to predict. So based on that, which one do you think would be the most predictable? Baseball for sure. Okay, does that kind of make sense? And that's basically what this lesson entails. Okay, do we understand the idea of a box and whisker plot? So again, what are those 5 points that I'm looking for in a box and whisker plot? We're looking for the low, the high, the lower quartile, the upper quartile, and the median. That's all there is to it. And that's all I have for you today.